of the internet. It is Dave, it is Duncan, it is Kyle, back from Metal Epidemic for another album review. And for this review, Duncan, Kyle and I have been checking out the new album from Danish stoner rock crew Kadavermarch. The band's new album, Into Oblivion, will be released on May 6th via Last Mile Records. So, gentlemen, Kadavermarch are a 5-piece band consisting of 2 guitars, 1 bass, 1 drums, 1 organ, and 2 lead vocals. Members of the band include a who's who of the Danish underground. That's right, a who's who of the Danish.
Please, if anyone's listening to this, switch over to either Spotify or YouTube, because Dave's using sign language, which doesn't just go into an audio format. It would have been okay if you used it once, but you've used like 6 times for quotation marks. You don't usually do it on other reviews either when you're quoting the press. It's thrown me all off.
Well, the press is in quotations. Who's who is in quotations, so I was just adding that in for
But who said that? Does it credit who said that?
Who's who? Dave is saying that. Of the Danish underground with members.
Is there an owl in here? What's going on?
I'm getting confused. Like, if the press statement,
this is a quote of
someone.
A quote.
Yeah, if the press statement is saying who's who in quotation marks, then they need to credit who said who's who.
Well, I don't know, but I'm quoting them.
And like,
right.
this is
just deal with it, Duncan. All right,
what
just
is
deal
that?
with
This is like the inception of fucking PR press statements at the start.
I love how we're a minute and a half in and it's already off the rails.
This is a who's who of the Danish underground with members and ex-members of bands such as Ill Disposed.
Ooh, what?
Yeah, that's right. Crocell, Kazar, Hellhorse, and Tudzimgamelt.
I kind of feel like, I just want to stress that I feel like we've also, like, we were a bit too excited for every mention there of Ill Disposed and no other band. So I think what Dave should do is go back in and like just reuse our video going and then reverse the camera angle.
I'll do that again.
So it looks like I was impressed by all that.
Crocell, lads. What about Crocell? Cesar.
Cesar. Yeah.
Hellhorse.
Hellhorse is just a great fucking name for a band. I don't even know who they are, but it's the fucking best name for a band.
Tudzimgamelt.
Yeah. Every time you pronounce it gets worse.
And Total Heels, amongst others. Kadavermarch met up for the first time in the summer of 2019 to wallow in their desire to play stoner, desert rock, and heavy metal. Brought together by a mysterious mutual friend who had a fuzzy vision for the band that he shortly thereafter abandoned. Since then, the remaining 5 members have developed their sound to just the right blend of different howling noises to satisfy their riff-needy souls.
Was this band founded by a desert wizard? Literally what it sounds like. Like a wizard from the desert came in and said, I need to form a band. I will combine these members like the fucking giant robot from the Power Rangers. Like, it's connected all these parts in, and then it was like that. Actually, I've changed my mind.
It was Danish Gandalf with a bomb.
The band's debut album was engineered by Joseph Gallagher. Take a breath. Mixed by Jakob Bredal.
Of course it was.
Why does that not surprise me? He is mixing everything.
Mastered by Brad Boatwright.
We love you, Brad.
That's just bombs.
Been a Kyle.
Been dropped. Yeah,
Bring it back.
I kind of wanted to start right there, to be honest. This production, gents.
Is there anything that he can, like, until I actually physically hear him, like, do, I don't know, K-pop or like something like a fucking, like a dubstep mix or something? I think at this stage, Big Jacob could do anything.
Yeah.
Because you think about the level of extremity that he's covered already, tailored to the band's sounds, and then down to this, which is on the completely different end of the spectrum. And he's fucking nailed it.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to agree. And I think, like, props need to go to Joseph Gallagher, who engineered it. Obviously, he's captured the bare bones of it, so props need to go in for that. And then mixed by Jakob, who's done an outstanding job, and then mastered by Brad. And
It's the new Holy Trinity.
it really is. I mean, this is tailored 100% to the band sound. They have captured that vintage feel, but it doesn't sound like thin or undercooked. It's still got heft to it. Perfect on the production front. When I hit play on this release, the first thing I thought was, oh, this has a wee whiff of the green lung about it.
All right, not where I was going.
And
Let's go.
in the distance, I could hear Kyle's wallet open. And
If
his
they're in
wife.
Denmark, I would like to think like the shipping of the T-shirt is cheaper. Hopefully,
I could hear it. I could hear his wife saying, "No, Kyle, I'm not selling another kidney. Just no, put it back in your wallet."
You've got two. Come on.
I love the idea of every time Kyle wants a T-shirt, his wife wakes up in a bath full of ice, missing a kidney.
You're like,
Kyle,
hello.
what did you think of the new debut album?
Fuck off. This is a debut.
It just said it was a debut, founded in 2019 by a desert wizard.
By a desert wizard. And Mixed in a Cauldron by 3 other wizards. Will you be buying some Kadavermarch?
Oh, what? He's been sitting on that since the start. By the way, if they don't have that at their merch stall while playing gigs, or a link on their website that says Kadavermarch, then they have failed as humans.
Absolutely. Kyle, what do you think?
I will be buying some Kadavermarch.
Oh, yes.
My first note is love it.
Nice. Right to the point, Kyle. I like it.
Not like love it.
Nice.
Like you said, the production on this is damn fucking perfect. Not near perfect, is perfect. Yes. With the holy trinity of the 3 engineers that worked on this, it's just, you can't. They have a certain way of working, all of them, which tailors it to the band. So the recordings are tailored to the band, the mix is tailored to the band, and the master is again tailored to the band. So no presets here. Everything sounds super clear, super hefty, and super old and retro.
Yep.
And I love it. Yeah, I had a great time with this. It was the first one I listened to for the reviews we did this time round, and I was like, oh man, this is going to be really unfair on the other albums. I must have played this about 50 times. It's been just on repeat. Yes. I
had a feeling when I hit play, I thought this could be a Kyle album.
You were damn right.
Yeah,
that whiff of green lung I caught onto right away. It's all in the vocal and in the nice groove and all that stuff, which is interesting because in Green Lung they have a single vocalist who sounds a bit like that dude from Ghost.
Yeah.
I say a bit like, a lot like.
Might be the dude from Ghost.
Might
But
be.
at this stage, let's just start internet rumours.
He's just put on a Croydon accent and gone, let's start a band. Anyway, this one, they have 2 vocalists.
Yes.
Neither of them sound like that dude from Ghost. But together, they sound fucking amazing together. I really love that. I thought that was such an interesting way to do it. Like, we've heard bands together before with 2 vocalists, like Nightwish and Sixth and stuff, but there's always like taking turns. Well, Sixth did a little bit together, but these guys seem to always be harmonizing like the Beatles.
Yeah.
And I love
Alice
that.
in Chains.
Oh, Alice in Chains, yes. How did I miss that one? Because I'm in Norway and there's no one called Alice here.
Alice. Who the fuck is Alice? Yeah, Davey boy. 20 years friendship, huh?
I went to see Alice Cooper in 2005 and with my friend, and we had custom T-shirts made up that said "Who the fuck is Alice" on the back. Nobody got the joke.
No.
Damn English people.
The rest of the internet are just like, what are they fucking talking about?
Yeah, come on.
Who? What?
Yeah, no, I love this shit.
Links below to Alice. Find out who Alice was in the links below.
How is this a debut?
Yeah, how?
Like, the songwriting is too good.
Yeah.
They've all been in other bands, so.
Yeah, I know, but like, even when you come from other bands into another one, you've got a Hellhorse way, of course. I mean, you mentioned Hellhorse.
For all you know, Hellhorse might just be too legit to quit. I'm not even saying that sarcastically. Like the pedigree of the songmanship in here makes me think that all those bands that we just mentioned are pretty good. So at minimum,
Ill-Disposed are fucking awesome.
Yeah, Ill-Disposed are great. So
again,
but that makes you wonder, like, when members from all these bands come out and go into another, they're still going to get used to each other and figure it out. But so, like, there must be like one or two principal songwriters because it's got such a
Ill-Disposed sounds nothing like this.
No, exactly.
Nothing. Like could not be.
No,
it's the Desert Wizard that did it though.
Yeah,
a little from Call Me, a little from Call Me. Woo.
Standout track.
Oh,
track 3, Abyss.
Oh,
You know why? The intro. I was walking down the first time I listened to it. I was walking to I don't remember where. I was walking down the road, and just as this came on, I was walking past an old lady with like a grandma on a stroller, and I could not stop cackling to myself after they said what they said at the end of the intro. I was just like, that's great. I'm sorry. It was awesome. No, I love this. It's so easy to put on repeat. It's been on repeat for me for a lot of times. There's riffs for days. Great intros, love the vocal style and the songwriting. They're clearly very, very talented and very passionate about making different types of music and metal and dipping their toes into different places, because obviously all the bands they came from are pretty different from this. And I'm wondering if the mysterious Dark Stranger is the same guy that mixed it.
Duncan, what do you think?
Yeah, this is great. I weirdly had it in my head that this band had another album out, because the name was like Kadavermarch. I've heard that before and I don't know where, and then it's I still don't know. So there's a band out there. It's Polka Dot Cadaver, isn't it?
There is a Polka Dot Cadaver.
Yeah, that's where I'm getting confused. Maybe Cadaver is not a word that makes its way into many band names. So like instantly it had me interested just from the artwork, right? So like without even knowing what the band sounds like, the artwork instantly gives away huge swaths of 70s kind of retro desert rocky sort of vibes. So when I hit play, I know you guys are chatting about Green Lung, you're missing the obvious comparison, which is the sword.
Yes, that's the other one. Yeah, I was going to mention
absolutely.
that.
Yeah, in whole sections here, they sound so much like the sword. It's kind of dizzying, and what's kind of interesting about it is, as a result of that, I had just assumed that these guys were American, because of their never in a million years would have been able to place them in Denmark. But once again, solidifying Duncan's stance that Denmark is maybe one of the most exciting places right now for music. They just seem to be putting out high quality music in lots of different genres. So yeah, the sword was what's kind of stood out to me straight away. Maybe not necessarily vocally speaking, but definitely musically. And not even kind of later day the sword, because the last album they put out, which still had a kind of 70s vibe, Use Future, I think was the name of the album, I might be wrong about that. It was, I don't know, a bit more minimal compared to this, but earlier the sword has a lot more of those sections where it feels thicker, and they have a lot of that here. Production, we mentioned it, let's mention it again. It's the tits. It's brilliant. Love the organ work on this. Absolutely love it, because it's not overpowering, and that's the danger when doing kind of 70s, especially 70s inspired rock. If you are Led Zeppelin, for example, and your track is 8 minutes long, it is okay to have a lot of organ in that song. You know what I mean? But if your track is 3 minutes long, the organ probably shouldn't be playing all the way right through it, right? They temper that really, really well, and that's not always easy when you have like an organ player in the band who just wants to play all the time, because that's what they want to do. Vocally, love the vocals here. The kind of dual vocals add a really interesting element to it, and if anything, it should feel overused, but doesn't, which is that, like the aforementioned Alice in Chains. It's one of the reasons I love that band as much as I do, is vocally they're instantly recognizable, and every band that's tried that since has instantly been accused of copying them. And it's kind of the same here, in that they have a very distinct sound straight away that doesn't necessarily sound like anyone else, which means they're doing it in a kind of more original and right way. They're also, like you say, not doing the like the kind of Mastodon approach, which, I mean, Mastodon now have 3 vocalists technically. Each of them get their little shot at doing a bit, and that adds different elements depending on the way the song's created. They're not doing that here. It just adds a thickness, almost a weird kind of reverby fuzz to the vocals, which I enjoy as well. Riffs for days is like the perfect way to describe it. Like, at no point here do they feel like they're being repetitive either, which once again is something that you can tar a band with very easily in this genre. It's very easy to sound very samey, and these guys managed to avoid it. A lot of that is to do with, I think, the kind of playful way that they approach the writing of the music, but also the way they lean into some of those heavier elements. So when they want to get a bit heavy, by their standards, it gets heavy and it adds an additional kind of weighty groove, which I really enjoyed. It's a very, very, very smooth listen. This, like, it's very Moorish. I'd like spun it not 50 times like Kyle, but spun it a fair few.
I wore out the MP3s.
And there's a lot to keep you coming back, and it's interesting because last week, although depending on the chronology of when things drop, me and Dave reviewed the new Stoner album, or Stoner, whatever you want to pronounce it, and that basically has, like, for all intents and purposes, 2 of the most iconic modern kind of desert rock musicians playing on an album here. So in theory, that should be like the be all and end all, and Kadavermarch have made a better album. Comfortably made a better album, because I think the approach that they've taken with this, whilst not being the most original I've heard, certainly has something about it that doesn't make you want to pass over certain tracks, whereas the aforementioned Stoner release has a couple of goofy bits in it, which you could see yourself maybe getting to and going, all right, in the next track. It's not in here. So yeah, I think they've achieved something incredibly impressive that, bands like The Sword took maybe about 2-3 albums into their career before they were hitting that stride, and they're doing it on album 1. So I predict great things for this band.
Nice. Just to follow up, I really enjoyed. I'd heard the first single from the album, so I was already kind of sold on what I'd heard. Plus, obviously, I'd read that our good buddies Jakob and Brad were doing the mix and mastering, so a lot of boxes had already been ticked. And then I hit play button on the album, and it kind of delivered exactly what I wanted. Mainly because the first track of the album was the first single, so it started pretty well. That is like, it's a great blend of stoner, desert rock, and, as I said, straight up heavy metal. Yeah, there's elements of that kind of green lung kind of riffing with the retro soaked vocal hooks, but there's little nods to bands like The Sword, like you mentioned, even a little bit of Baroness in there as well. There are huge sections in here that are reminiscent of The Sword. However, it's funny, when I went on Spotify, Spotify has Kadavermarch as for fans of Life Sick.
What?
Okay. They're Danish, but that's pretty much where the comparison
laziest
stops.
matching ever.
So fucking hell, sort it out, Spotify.
Anyway. Like there's plenty of bands you could link this to, like bands like just north of where they are, Witchcraft.
Totally.
You could very easily put them on a bill with Witchcraft, or even continue going more north and then start bringing in some of those. These guys would sit comfortably on a Svart Records, if you know.
100%. Anyway, these the vocals, as we mentioned, very much steeped in that kind of 70s vibe, along with the guitar tone, which is akin to the kind of smoky sound. I was picking up some kind of like high country type vibes by The Sword. But as mentioned, there's also a kind of more traditional kind of heavy metal side to this band. It's still very retro sounding, but it gives the album a little bit more weight in places, and a slight tempo increase on tracks like Abyss. I think that particular style also gives a lot of these tracks a nice hook, because it's often like characterized by the twin guitar harmonies and little kind of licks that are just as catchy as the choruses. But as we've said, it's not only the twin attack on this album. We've got double vocals, which come from the drummer and the guitarist, which I think are another win for this band, because not only do the dual vocals penetrate through that wall of guitars, that's right, penetrate, but those harmonies,
I'm not biting.
those harmonies are fantastic.
Yeah, please don't.
It kind of reminded me of, see, when we heard what's they called, Our Man in the Bronze Age.
Yes.
And we're hearing those, like the level of those kind of harmonies. That's what it kind of reminded me of. They are a highlight here for sure. But I mean, it's not all sweetness. There are some kind of heavier moments in there as well. A couple of kind of gruffer vocals. I also really liked when they leaned into that heavier side of their sound. There's a riff on Flowering Death. It's very down-like, actually. The guitars they sound more metallic, and there's a really cool groove on that track. So I wasn't really expecting that. And there's also some like kind of percussion comes into that track later as well, which I wasn't expecting. Also, when they dive further into the more kind of occult side, the more occult tones, like on Satanic, which, like as the name would suggest, it's kind of drenched in a kind of darker tone musically and vocally. And even though there are like a bunch of ingredients going on here on Into Oblivion, the balance is really good. It never feels like they are leaning too much on one style for too long. I think the album gives you a little bit of everything without any of it sounding out of place. And as you mentioned, Duncan, the organ is a prime example of that. It's very subtle. There isn't one track on here where I thought, oh, that organ feels far too overpowering.
Which is good for you.
Yeah.
Dave has an issue with overpowering organ.
It wasn't like any other Swedish organ using bands.
Well, they're not Swedish, so that's fine.
My only small criticism of the album were, I think there was maybe a couple of tracks that didn't jump out at me as much as the rest, maybe where the hooks didn't fully sink in. Hollow Souls it's got a cool vibe. It's not massively catchy, but I think they paired it next to a track called Beyond the End.
Yeah.
I don't know if it worked for me. They were both quite similar tracks. They start off kind of chilled with quite similar tempos and rhythms, and then they do build into something heavier. And then the album closer was Reefer Madness, which
it's all about that weed smoke, Dave.
Yeah, I think that track was good once it got going, but I'd hoped it would kick off with a bit more gusto, because the previous two tracks were kind of slow to begin with. And it had that kind of like slow kind of build and intro to it again. So maybe the pacing of the end of the album was maybe just a little bit off for me, but I still enjoyed it. It wasn't enough for me, for it to ruin anything, to be honest. So it delivered what I hoped. After I heard the first single, the rest of the album definitely lived up to my expectations. Ratings wise, what do we think? Where would this sit for you? Kyle, what are you thinking?
It's a great album. I had such fun time with it, and I can imagine I'm going to come back to it another 50 times this year, so I'm going to give it a full-on 4.5 out of 5.
Nice. Duncan?
Marginally lower. I'm going to give it a 4. I think they're on to a winning formula. I enjoyed this album a whole lot. I think they're one to watch. I genuinely think they have a huge amount of potential, and that sound, we mention it all the time, that sound slots in really, really well with a lot of different genres. Sure. You can go down the Mastodon and Baroness road, or you could go down the Queens of the Stone Age route. There's different avenues you could easily plug this band into a live set, and it would work very well. So 4 out of 5.
Nice. I'd go 4 out of 5 on this one as well. I think these guys have got a lot of personality, and I think they pull this off authentically, and it sounds contemporarily vintage, if that makes sense. Kind of. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. If you like any of the bands that we mentioned in the review, then definitely check this one out. It drops on May 6th on Last Mile Records. The album is called Into Oblivion. I'll put some links below to their Facebook, to the pre-order, so you can check it out. Let us know what you think. Stick some comments in below. That is the review. Thank you for checking it out. Much appreciated. We'll be back with another review very soon. But until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.